Hello, hi there everybody. So we're going to be talking today about mindfulness, but actually just an element of mindfulness which is about helping you to feel like you're successful and in the flow of things going more your way, and how you can use mindfulness and self-awareness to kind of create the life that you want to live, basically. And so what does that look like? So for me, think about a river, and I've used this analogy before. So think about you and your soul as a river, and think about how water and river moves. You know, river can move into streams and it can turn into creeks, and it flows where it wants to flow, and it goes where it is needed. So rivers, you know, go through towns where people can, you know, wash their clothes, or, you know, that's where they get their water supplies, into like streams and creeks where animals and birds and wildlife can also grow, form, drink also too. So it's an abundant, flowing, beautiful experience. So imagine that your soul is like that. It can be a strong river, but it can also break off and be creeks and streams and rivers also too. When your soul is flowing in that kind of way, in an exploratory kind of way, and is enriched and is in abundance, then everything flows successfully. Now imagine if you are a fish in that soul. You know, imagine the human aspect of you is a fish that is in that, you know, flowing down the stream. It's an easy job if you're just going with the current and you're flowing and you're eating other little fishes, or, you know, all the different sort of wildlife that's there. But if you're a fish that then, you know, for some reason wants to go up current, you could do it, but it's so much harder. You're trying to swim up against something that's flowing the other way. Life is harder for you. Now, when you become much more self-aware about your purpose here, and how to bring abundance and success, and how to make things flow much more easier for you, it's about creating that state. Now, some people will do that through mindfulness meditations, about sort of making sure that you quieten your mind and relax, and to imagine yourself being in the flow. But actually the key and most simplest thing to do, and those techniques are really good, but the most powerful message that I want to leave you with today as I do this talk is about really getting you to understand that the most important thing towards mindfulness, but also success in your life, is to be, but also to prioritize how you feel about absolutely everything beyond anything else in your life. You have to understand that you chose to have a soul's purpose with certain skills and certain priorities to help you expand, but also to help consciousness expand, because we're all part of an integrated kind of source purpose. And I have other videos on that for you to have a look at if you're not sure what it is that I'm talking about. So if your soul's purpose that you've decided because you had a thought that then became the person that you are, and you've come down here to say, let's be a dancer, and you've come down here and your purpose, your talent is to be a dancer, but because of conditions and circumstances, you've been told that actually that's probably not a good idea because money's the most important thing, and so you should be aspiring to have as much money and security as you can in your life. And so there you are, you go to, you know, to be a doctor or something like that because you think, God, that's going to give me the most security, it's going to give me the most wealth, because that's what I've been told that I must do, even though my soul is telling me that I'm a dancer. You could very successfully try to be that doctor, but you'll be fighting against current. You might be miserable, you might even have a bit of depression, you might have resentment, you might have all those negative flowing things, and it's just so much more harder for you to actually do it. And then when you do it, are you completely still happy doing it? Are you as good as probably another person whose soul's purpose is to do that job? One would argue probably not. And for those of you who've been in that position, you'll know exactly what I mean. However, when you follow your authenticity, when you go with the flow of who you are and not what's expected of you, you know, societal or otherwise, peer pressure or otherwise, and you flow, you'd be a dancer so quickly, so easily, and compared to other people, because it's where you're supposed to be, because it's your soul's purpose. It comes to you much more easier. And when you relax into that and you trust your feelings on the matter, that's what you're supposed to be, despite the naysaying of other people. Not only does it bring you joy and abundance and more wonderful things in your life, but then you'll not just be any old dancer, you'll be the greatest also too. That's why I stress the most important thing about how to use mindfulness and self-awareness to create the best flow in your life, which then brings you success, because the universe, believe it or not, wants you to have success in your life, is that you must prioritize your feelings above everything else and everybody else. Now, some people might say, well, isn't that selfish? Well, there's nothing wrong with being beautifully selfish when it means that you're in a state of success, because that state of success has a ripple effect, not just in your life, but also on the currents and the flows of other people in your life, because you'll engage with them in a much better and happy and healthier way. Your purpose, so take the analogy of a dancer, could be that you come in contact with people that for one reason or another can enrich or bring comfort to somebody. So we've all been there when we've been to the theatre, or we've been there. That skill that you've been brought with means that you are providing some cleansing or some harmony or some relaxation for people that are viewing you doing what you're doing. So without you in that dancer role, as I'm using that as an analogy today, you wouldn't be impacting the people that you were supposed to be impacting. That would have a ripple effect on their flow. Just like if your soul's purpose was to be a doctor and you were told to be a lawyer instead because the pressure was there, people who are in the flow of trying to get achievements wouldn't be as successful having you as the doctor in their life, that perhaps you had to treat them for something that was groundbreaking or just important for that one moment because you didn't choose to be in the flow. But more importantly, then you're in a space of lack, you're in a lower vibration. And that's not what mindfulness and awareness is about. It's about fulfilling your soul's purpose. So how do you do this successfully? I'm going to give you some techniques and tips so that you can always try to be aware about where you are in your current flow so that things flow better. So when you're in a state of depression or anxiety or worry or stress, that means you're going against the flow of something, and it's taking that moment to kind of pause to figure out why that is and what changes and solutions that you could make to change that into joy and to success. Now, some of that has to be about prioritizing your feelings, but also then to relax into the decision that you've made about prioritizing your feelings. But also that you need to be aware that you have your own current, but you're also working with the currents of other people and other energies. So to be willing to make adjustments. So for example, if you're a fish swimming in your river and you're swimming along and you're going with the flow really, really nicely, but then suddenly, a bigger fish comes and might eat you, you wouldn't just be like, oh well, I'm going with the flow, so I'll just flow right into its mouth. You would pause for that second and make some necessary adjustments. Or another example, if we put it into the human contents, is let's just say you were having a christening for your child, or a wedding, or some sort of event similar to that, and you've been planning it to be an outdoor event, and if it rains though, you're going to do whatever it is to kind of, make that successful, even if people still have to stand outside. But what you're doing then is that you're not adjusting to the energies of the weather conditions, let's say, and therefore if you then push through with your plan because that's your flow and that's what you feel, then it starts to become actually not in your flow because you'll start to get stressful and anxious because of the weather, because you're not making adjustments to that. So there's two things. You have to prioritise definitely how you feel, but make adjustments when what you feel is in conflict or contradiction to the energies of other things or other people. So let me give you an example from my own life. So I've been the secret psychic full-time, not a secret, for probably about 2.5 years. But before that, I did it very, very secretly. Hence why I'm called the secret psychic, because before that, I kept it a secret because in this line of business, as those of you who might be watching or maybe don't know, sometimes it's frowned upon, it is what it is. And the job that I was doing before, it was fine, but it did get to a place where actually my inner desire, where I wanted to be when I saw myself in the future, was not to be in a job 9 to 5 where I was stuck in the same routine, or stuck sort of even in my own sort of country because of that. I wanted, actually, my dream was actually to be able to work wherever I wanted to work from anywhere in the world, because I'd like to move to somewhere warmer eventually. But how could I do that if I was stuck to a 9 to 5 job in London? So basically, I'd always done this, but I'd always done this line of work sort of part-time and in secret, but never for sort of like monetary gain. The job I was doing was quite very, very corporate-y. It was a joy to do, but then it got to a place where actually I wasn't happy anymore. And then I started to feel this kind of resistance, this unhappiness, this depression, this anxiety about the work I was doing. And I resisted. I was going upstream for a really, really long time because it was still quite a comfort zone to me. And also it was that kind of mantra between, well, I can't do this full time because I'll be judged and people won't respect me anymore, and blah, blah, blah. All the things that, you know, society tells you in the background that we tend to listen to, that hold us actually back. But I was getting miserable and miserable and miserable, deeply miserable. And so one day, and it was bold and it was risky, and you know, my own guides and my own higher self were saying you need to do this, but it was really scary. But one day, because I was just so miserable, I chose to prioritize my feelings, my mindfulness, my well-being above everything else and everyone else, and I just quit. It was pretty scary. I had no job to go to or anything. I just quit. The moment I did that, I had the sense of relief that I'm talking about, because I was immediately in my flow. I immediately trusted myself. So then what? I said to myself, you know, okay, I'll find another job, another stable one, which was actually against the flow again of my desire. But in the meantime, you know, this part-time thing that I've always kind of done, I will do that because I enjoy helping people. I enjoy doing this line of work. But I guess really believed that I could do this sort of full time, because again, that inner dialogue of other people and what that would mean. So I started to do it, and I was still looking for other roles, but then this felt better. This flowed more. It's kind of snowballed a little bit, and those of you who've heard this story before will know what I'm talking about. And then it dawned on me, with the help of my spirit guides, that actually this is exactly where I needed to be. I was happier, I had more abundance, I was joyfuler, I could help more people, I had much more impact than what I was doing. And it actually fulfilled the dream that the desire of the flow of where I wanted to see myself in 5 or 10 years' time. Because now I do work independently for myself, and I could work anywhere I want in the world. I was in my flow. I prioritised my feelings after everything. And then once that dawned on me, and it took about 6 months because I was still in a bit of resistance about doing this full time, that once I embraced, actually this is what I wanted to do, it's when I took the mask off. That's why I'm called the secret psychic, even though you can see me. It's because I'm not really a secret anymore. I was being my authentic self. I was taking away the judgments and the opinions of other people that are so pressurized on us to kind of be a certain way. And I've never been more happier, hence why I'm doing this talk also to you today, so that you too can prioritise your feelings and take those risks that you need to do to prioritise them in order to be in your flow, to be able to relax and to trust that the universe always knows what you want and is working, believe it or not, with you to get you there. And when I hit sharks or bigger fish, I would pause and I would reassess the situation and make a quick adjustment. But I still be in the flow. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get you guys to understand today, so that you can have the success you want in your way, in your personal circumstances, along with your desires, and how to get that successfully. The important thing that I learned by going with the flow, not only did I create my own happiness, but I've been able to help other people in very, very different and difficult, challenging situations, which I've been really privileged and very blessed to be part of. But even if I hadn't have done this, and my ambition was to be an artist or a skateboarder, I would have had an impact in the same way, but just under different circumstances with other people that would have helped their flow of things. the universe has a purpose for everything. There's an expansion for everything. So do not deny yourself, because you could also be limiting the impact that you have on somebody else also too, in a much positive and much more profound way than you probably could ever think of. Another thing that you should be doing or trying to do is that, and we have it every now and then, is what I say is like acting very fast and very quickly on inspiration that happens in your life, or an inspiring thought. So we have them all the time, so sometimes we have them in dreams too. But quite often what happens is we have that and then we kind of let it fizzle and die. And my greatest suggestion to you is that when you have that inspiration, you get that positive feeling for it, is to act as soon as possible. Like, imagine if you're on a beach and you have a surfboard and you want to do some surfing. Now you're in the water, a big wave comes, that's your moment to get onto your board and to ride that wave. You have seconds to do something about it, or the wave just goes past you and you've missed the opportunity. So when you get inspiration, even if it's the smallest thing, do something, even if it's just to write it down. Do something actionable, because you set the intention and you start the process. You start that flow of energy that leads to A to B to C, that gets you to where you want to go. You can do this with everything. If you get inspiration about the type of car that you want to buy, when that inspiration happens, just like if you're on the water and you're on that surfboard, take the opportunity to ride that wave all the way to the beach, all the way to your destination, what you desire. Another really great tip to kind of help yourself to get into your current, into your flow and towards success, is to use mindfulness to your advantage, to be very, very, very present with yourself, particularly in times when you do need to focus on an achievement in particular. So this could be as simple as you have to give a speech, and so you've done your preparation and that's all fine, but then you're just about to give your speech, but perhaps that night before you've had an argument with your wife or with your husband, and that is stressing you out because it's in the back of your mind. That's going to put you off being present in what it is that you're trying to achieve. Sometimes it's about learning to kind of just check in with yourself, to bring your awareness within, to acknowledge that you have what's going on, and to say, right, just for this 30 minutes or for this half an hour, I'm going to leave that baggage in a little invisible case and I'm going to leave it on the side of the stage while I do this. And then I'm going to perform that, and then I'll come back and I'll pick that up and take it back with me. It's about having that presence of mind, that you pause to do that, because sometimes we are aware that we should do that, but we don't give ourselves the time to actually do that, focus in, to visually pack it up in that invisible suitcase, leave it there, and then do what we need to perform in, and then go back. That would be another way to help you with the flow of things, particularly if you're, again, working with the current energies of other things, which that would be an example of. You're working with the current energy of the argument that you had with your partner, mother, father, whoever it was. If you can nicely be present with yourself, give your gift of the awareness that is present and there, to temporarily pack it up and pick it up afterwards, then you can deal with that in a separate way. Another way of getting or knowing that you're in the flow of things, because some people ask me, well, how do I know that my feeling is correct? Is when there's no contradictions, basically. So if you're feeling something that feels like it's right, but you've got a little voice that's saying otherwise, that's pulling you another way, then it's not in alignment. So either one or two things need to happen. You either need to address the contradiction and question it and be present with that, or make adjustments, or that actually what you think is right is probably not right at all, because what you're feeling, there should have no contradictions to it. So it should feel wholly right about it. So it's a bit like you saying to yourself, I kind of need to break up with this person because everybody else tells me that I shouldn't be with them, and so they're probably right. But you've got an inner voice that's saying, but you still care about them, and does it really matter what other people think? Then actually, are you following the flow because that's your truth, or are you doing it because of others? So it has to be that way. And sometimes people will find that It's difficult perhaps when their real truth is against very much what other people are wanting for them or expecting from them. But as I keep saying, in order to get success in things is about prioritising about how you feel above all things and everybody else also as well, in a healthy way, of course. Another question I get asked is, well, I might feel like I'm in the flow, but how do I know? Now, the universe has a really good way of letting you know that you're in the flow of things. Not only will you feel great about it, but there's something called synchronicities that also will happen too. They'll be all over the place. So you'll be heading in one direction, and then all of a sudden, you'll just get a synchronicity coming that will lead you to another thing, to another path, to another thing, to another path, if that kind of makes sense. And so, gosh, I'll give you an example. So the example I gave you about my work, when I was sort of unemployed and I started to do what I was doing part-time, which is my sort of psychic work, and I was still looking for like my mainstream job, that wasn't going well looking for the mainstream job, but everything that I was doing with my psychic work just was getting more and more and more without any effort at all. And it was just far more easier and effortless and successful and impactful than when I was trying to do the opposite, when I was trying to go upstream. But you know, another example could be like for you personally, that let's just say that you your part of your goal is to get your child into a good school, and you're doing everything that you feel is correct because you're trusting your flow of things. But one day you're on a bus and you happen to get chatting to somebody who actually works in the school governance for the school that you want your child to get in. That would be a synchronicity, because then you're in the current of speaking to that person who might have an influence. There are no accidents, let's say, because remember, the universe knows what you want. So you'll know you're in the correct flow of things because everything will be lining up for you, a bit like, you know, somebody putting a red carpet over a big puddle for you unexpectedly. It's that kind of feeling. And that's how, one of the ways that you will know, because the feeling of relief and happiness and joy and ease will be there. And sometimes people say to me, well, I have discomfort. If you have discomfort, then you're not in the flow, and you need to reevaluate your own truth about things and to really follow your inner guidance, even if it seems scary. A bit like my story. I quit a very good paid job because I trusted my feelings. And I can't stress how your feelings have to be the priority. It's how successful people are successful. Is because they believe in their feelings and themselves immensely. So the whole point of this video is to get you to your success, but also to do that in a mindful way. And one of the key ways to bring you that success, to be in your flow, to go in the right direction in the current of life that's towards your desires, is really strongly about that in particular. So part of the practice of mindfulness, one of the techniques to help you to be present with yourself is meditation, is to spend some time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, to have self-awareness, to practice a form of meditation. Now, that doesn't mean you have to sit cross-legged, silent, listening to Om music. It could be as simple as being in the shower and just taking your thoughts within, to listen to a piece of music and to tell how it makes you feel. To write something down, to make a list of things. It's about giving yourself that time to be present with you, to block out external things and to be with yourself, even if it's sitting on a park bench. Or it could be as simple as listening to some actual audios of meditation, just so that you can focus your mind to bring that flow in. When you're practicing mindfulness, or as often as you can, hopefully every day, your intuition, your sense of alignment, your understanding about your flowing in the right direction magnifies tenfold. You become in no doubt about listening to yourself. And I always say to everybody, particularly when they come to me or any other psychics, actually, the person that you should be listening to above anybody else is absolutely yourself. You are the captain of your ship, I should say. And you must be guided by that all the time. But sometimes people find that hard to do because they haven't taken the time to practice being in alignment, which is what mindfulness is all about. So give yourself that gift today, because that small step helps you immediately to start to get into the flow. So the last thing is, in order for you to have this flow successful, you have to do this for the rest of your life. Now, you need to think of yourself like a car a little bit, you know. In order for a car to drive straight, to keep into alignment, it's tracking on the car, and the idea of the car needs to make sure that it's straight. If that comes out of alignment, then the car is always going to be steering to one side or another, or it could actually steer so far that it actually becomes dangerous. Hence why you think about yourself when you get to a place where you're so in turmoil or despair or traumatized by events that are often external, that impact your alignment or make you feel like you want to go up current. It's because your tracking's off. Mindfulness, self-awareness, prioritizing your feelings and going with the flow means that you're always going to have your tracking aligned, and that you're always going to be in alignment to flow the way you need to be. Which means you have to give yourself an MOT and be present always. If you stop doing that, guess what will happen, guys? You'll come out of alignment, you'll spiral and you spin. And just like how expensive it is and how costly it is and time consuming it is to get a car tracking fixed, the same will apply to you. It just takes harder for it to fix, but you can do it again and again in your life. You just need to revisit it if you ever do stop doing that. But the way to continue that success, and the universe again will just keep chucking synchronicities and chucking abundance and everything at you, as long as you follow your feelings. If I leave you with one message today, follow your internal guidance, stay aligned, be mindful, and expect the unexpected. Or actually I should rephrase that, because after a while it will become expected. Our job here is not to be here to experience lack. Quite the opposite. It is to experience the love and the joy and the abundance that the universe wants to give us all, as we complete aspects that no longer serve us and walk towards things that align us to the things that make us the beautiful, soulful beings that we are. And I hope that helps. Take care.